want to talk some F1 here. We got Australia coming up soon here.
First time on track will be this Thursday.
Yeah.
Or our time. Yeah.
It is 2015 all over again. How'd you like to be Fernando Alonso, man?
I would not want to be Fernando Alonso. That's the answer.
No, you win a couple championships 20 years ago and look like you're on a pathway to be one of the all-time greats in the stat book and everything. And then you end up at Ferrari and you're dealt with some of the worst cars at the time that Ferrari had put together in recent memory, and still almost win a couple of championships with those. And then we get to 2014 with the new regulations and a car that is infamous for oversteering and understeering at the same time. But then you come back to McLaren, new partnership with Honda, reminiscing on the glory days with Senna and Prost in that era, and you think everything's going to be great. And man, 2015 in particular, 2017, it got so bad that he said, screw the Monaco Grand Prix, I'm going to go run the Indy 500. And then ironically, his Honda engine failed him there. McLaren switched to Renault at 2018, but by that point, the damage was already done. He takes a sabbatical for a couple of years, goes and runs some endurance races, does the Indy 500 a couple more times. Now he's back after stints at Alpine and the previous incarnation of Aston Martin. And now Honda is coming back in with that team. Adrian Newey's here, and they are preparing to basically start and park the Australian Grand Prix. I mean, you can't make this up. And while he was gone, and elsewhere in other teams in F1 as well, Honda was off winning championships with Max Verstappen and Red Bull. They were terrible when they came back in and Fernando was there, and then they go to Red Bull, they win championships, and now he's back with Honda. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. You literally can't. I mean, listen, I've always said, I don't have a problem with start and parking, all right? I welcome start and parks in ARCA, in the truck series. I've always said it's a non-competitive non-issue, right? Like, the only people that even seem to notice they're there half the time are guys like myself and the Brock Beards of the world that are writing Alaska articles about them. But we love the underdogs. We love the stories of these teams that can't even afford to pay the full tire bill for the weekend and hope to maybe go out and have a good run once a year when they have a chance to run the full race. And that business model that has been questioned in the past, it's kind of gone extinct now in the charter era, at least in particular with the Cup Series. But this is Formula One, man. This is the pinnacle. This is a world champion. This is one of the greatest designers of all time. And a team that seemingly with somebody like Lawrence Stroll, you would imagine is not wanting for cash, right? And here we are. This is, I mean...
Well, the first problem was when they didn't show up to Barcelona, to Catalonia for the first couple of days of the test before the test. They're just a no-show to the first day of school. But you think with all the money bag resources they've got there, with the Stroll family and Aramco and everything backing that Aston Martin program, to start and park round one, it's crazy.
I got to tell you, it was a bad omen, I think, when the live stream kept crashing, the car launch. And then you heard Lance Stroll say we're 4.5 seconds off the pace. I mean, I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I thought they might struggle for points at the start of a year. I thought the Honda engine might be a little unreliable. But this is from motorsport.com here. This is what their article that went live today says. The Aston Martin Formula One team has fallen into a dark hole in no small part because of Honda. The AMR 26's Honda engine has been so unreliable that the Silverstone-based outfit failed to carry out its preseason testing program. There you go, Brandon. Spending more time in the garage than out on track. Honda is completely unprepared for the Australian Grand Prix, with multiple engine failures in Bahrain jeopardizing spare parts supplies to the extent that Aston Martin considered skipping Melbourne by invoking force majeure. But this would have been a PR disaster for F1 as its new technical era begins, and Aston would have had to pay compensation for breaking the Concord Agreement's terms. The AMR 26s will be in Australia, but only intend to make the 107% rule to qualify for the grid and race a few laps before retiring. They are literally planning to start and park the Australian Grand Prix.
Planning
we have a term
to
for that here in NASCAR. I never thought, who would have thought that we'd see start and parking in Formula One, what's the reason for the retirement going to be? I mean, I guess you would say engine.
Engine,
but
yeah.
An engine failure, you quit before the engine fit. They would rather start and park than risk having a mechanical or an engine failure and not having the spare parts to fix it. That's where they're at.
Oh, no, that is so not right. I just wonder if they can make China. Are they going to be ready? It's in a week's. It's a week's time after that.
Yep. Iceman saying at least he'll be able to compete in the season opener this time, unlike 2015. Yeah. Well, I guess you do have to consider that. We're thankful that Fernando is healthy enough to be able to be fit to compete rather. Obviously, he had that testing incident in 2015. But yeah, hey, I'd welcome it. Alonso back to IndyCar.
Same. Yeah.
I mean, I still don't understand why he ever went back. I would have gone full time. I remember it was Motorsports. Like, I think it was David Malsher that wrote that like open letter to Fernando and said, "See you in St. Pete, I hope." I would have gone full time in IndyCar years ago and gone all in on trying to complete the Triple Crown. But he seemed to want to be back in F1 badly enough, and now he's in his mid-40s and still. I mean, I thought this was maybe going to be the year if they could nail the new regulations, bring Adrian Newey in here, and maybe this would be a year where there were some growing pains. But by 27, maybe that he could go out on top. It would be a great story, but it doesn't look like they're anywhere near that right now. Jason adding maybe Fernando is the problem. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of bad timing involved here, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Fernando back in a Honda is strange enough. I mean, I thought that bridge would have been burned permanently after 2017 for sure. But and Kobe brings up a good point as well. F1 teams were worried about Cadillac/Andretti not being prepared for the pinnacle of motorsport if Aston Martin run a few laps and retire both cars. Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing. That is the perfect word for it. Yeah. F1 this weekend does have potential for an absolute PR nightmare with the new regulations. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to hold full judgment until we see the product on track. But we frequently do this, I feel like. Just like 2021, aside from the controversy at the end of the year, all-time classic season, Mercedes and Red Bull right next to each other. Not just with Lewis and Max. I think people forget this, but Mercedes edged Red Bull out for the constructors, like Valtteri and Checo, who are now Cadillac teammates, ironically, were neck and neck all year too. And so the constructors was just as close as the drivers. And right as we had that great historic season, we changed regulations. I feel like every time we get close, like McLaren and Red Bull last year with both of their drivers and Max Verstappen, thought the racing was pretty good on several occasions last year and was probably on track to only get better. And we insist on changing it up here.
Yeah, I think NASCAR kind of follows that mold too. The generation of car, it starts to get better and better and better and better. Then before you know it, hey, it's time to build a new one.
Yeah, Kobe asks here, what if Aston Martin can't reach the 107% rule at Albert Park? That's a great question. I would imagine that they could file some sort of claim. That term is on the tip of my tongue. What would you say? That it file for an exception or something like that. I feel like that's happened with some of these minnow teams in the past before, where they haven't been within 107%, didn't meet that rule, but were allowed to compete anyway, so that you could still fill the grid. I mean, I have a very hard time seeing them denying Fernando Alonso the opportunity to be on the grid in Australia, but and we'll see. I mean, again, Lance Stroll saying they're 4.5 seconds off the pace isn't exactly encouraging, but it sounds like that's the least of their troubles here. It's reliability that is their main concern here. So hopefully they can at least go hard for a couple of laps in qualifying, and I doubt they're going to get out of Q1, but hopefully they can at least be within 107% there, because if they can't even do that, then that's just as embarrassing as starting parking, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm ready for FP1, and to add that to a part of the Motorsport Monday talk is finally getting to these new regulations that we've just had so many question marks over, that are, for better or worse, we're going to get our answers, and especially about Aston Martin.
Yeah, Jason says, I saw Alonso and all the Michelin drivers park at the United States Grand Prix at Indy, not even a starting park. Yeah, I don't know what you would...
Box. Immediately.
That's a very unique situation there. But sorry to hear that. I didn't realize you were. Well, I guess
were you there?
I guess you could
Or
be
just
saying
seeing
you
on
saw it on TV, but yeah, let us know, Jason, if you're still watching. If you were actually there that day, because I'd be interested to get your perspective on that. If you were, I apologize, because that was social media. I think Facebook was still in its infancy in 2005. That might have been the only one that was even around then. And even back then, I think
it was a year old. Yeah,
a Harvard experiment with Zuckerberg and everything. But the point being, like nowadays, you couldn't keep that a secret. Like everybody in the stands would know ahead of time if something like that were happening, because everybody has one of these in their hands. But
the
stands,
they let their frustration known. I mean, they booed it.
Yeah. So, my apologies, because that was I'm sure that was not fun. Yeah. If F1 has the worst case scenario this weekend, I hope it forces the FIA and F1 to give up hybrids. And we haven't even talked about this yet, but a lot of the teams talking about having to use temporary fuel here, and I think it was the teams using the Ferrari engine seem to be okay. They've had their fuels approved, but that could be a whole nother PR nightmare for Formula One this weekend. So we'll have to wait and see there. Kobe adding, BBC Sports said when Adrian Newey came to Aston Martin, he wanted to have a complete redesign of the 2026 car, which also put the team on the back foot. Yeah, I mean, again, I think the more I think about it, not too surprising that this would maybe be a year of some growing pains, and you would say 27 is when we really start to see the Newey effect take effect at Aston Martin, if you will. But not starting parking in an F1.
That's not the answer. No.
That's just I mean, who would have thought that we'd be talking about that here?